Female 31. I'm a single woman who lives alone and doesn't intend on having children of my own. I'm not wealthy, but I make enough to very comfortably support myself. I work from home and have a flexible schedule, so I have a lot of time to live how I want. I have a complicated friendship with Emma, female 27, because I love her but she frustrates me. Emma is a single mom with 2 children, Caleb, male 7, and Grace, female 4. Grace has had serious lung problems since birth and contracted RSV and OCT and has been hospitalized since. It's been a horrible time and she is finally more stable now but not well. Early into Grace's hospitalization, Emma asked me to take Caleb. Emma lives with her parents who were not willing to watch him full-time, so I happily took him in and temporarily converted my den into a room for him. He's a sweet kid who's been through a lot and I'm happy to give him some quiet space. I've never taken care of a child long-term before and my life was not set up for kids, but he has adjusted well. I love cooking and collecting special ingredients to use and trying new recipes, and Caleb just rolled with it. I grow microgreens at home and he's loved watching the process and incorporating them into his food. He hasn't liked everything, but he's always willing to try. I like pour painting and we've been having craft nights where he gets to experiment with his own canvases, which he's enjoyed. We also take trips to museums and shows. I've kept up my regular life and luckily, he was thrilled to come along. I would have struggled to come up with a more kid-specific lifestyle. Emma usually only calls weekly and sees him maybe once or twice a month, which bothers me, but the Grace situation must be draining. So I try not to hold against her, but it does mean that Emma really has no idea what we do day to day. Yesterday was Christmas and he was going home to visit his mom. I sent him with his gifts, shoes and books, plus gifts for his mom and sister. His grandma dropped him off last night and didn't really say much to me, which was weird. Caleb looked sad and didn't want to talk about it, so I let it be and we watched a movie before bed. Late that night, I got a call from Emma screaming at me for ruining her relationship with her son. I guess it didn't go super well and she feels that Caleb is now spoiled because of me and that what she can provide is no longer good enough for him. He wants to make kimchi with her. He wants to get a cat. He didn't want the mac and cheese his mom made for him. When Emma gave him a new coloring book, he told her about the paintings instead and asked her to get the supplies so they could do it together when he went back home. He asked why she never takes him to museums. I was so thrown off by the screaming that I yelled back and told her I wasn't going to downgrade my life to suit her expectations, and she hung up on me. I feel guilty now. I really hadn't considered how I could be affecting Caleb's tastes long term, but I think she should have thought about that herself. She knows how I live. Update. This isn't the happiest update, but not the worst either. It's also incomplete, but enough people asked me for an update that I felt I owed it to you guys. Emma has disappeared. I have not heard from her since the phone call, and she stopped showing up to the hospital around the first week of January. Grace has been released from the hospital into the care of Emma's parents. She is still very weak and lethargic, but she's recovering as well as she can. I bring Caleb to his grandparents to see her several times a week, and it's just so wonderful to see how happy they are to see each other. I can barely hold in the tears. This has been so difficult for both of them, and I love that they have each other. There's been a never-ending series of meetings, visits, and phone calls with CPS, boards, and family lawyers these past 2 weeks, which has been a lot. There are complications to Caleb being placed with me that I had not considered before and almost resulted in him being placed with his paternal grandparents, but ultimately it was decided it was best for Caleb to stay where he was, in his same school and near his sister. Barring any major complications, I will officially be granted temporary custody early next week and very likely guardianship this summer. Grace will remain with her grandparents for at least the time being, but me taking her once she's stronger has been suggested. It's uncertain if or when this could happen, but it's a possibility. It would be best for them to be together. Emma's social media is still active. We can see her opening our messages, but we do not know where she is or who she is with. I just hope she stays alive. I don't think I can ever forgive her for this, but her children still need her to be okay. Caleb will turn 8 at the end of this month. He wants to go ice skating. I've never gone myself, but I'm so excited to make a fool of myself with him. I just want to give him the best birthday I can. He deserves so much. If anyone has any cool ideas, I'd love to hear them. It's not a happy ending. It's not an ending at all, but I don't see myself returning here, so it's the best ending I have for you. Not an idiot. I was in tears reading your first post, and I'm in tears now. You are a wonderful human being, and I'm so happy these kids are lucky enough to have you in their lives. They're going through, and will continue to go through, some really tough emotions. But my gosh, you are a rock star with a really amazing mindset. I'm so glad you're sharing yourself and your life with these kids. The opportunity you've given them is worth so much. I don't even know you, but I'm so proud of you and crying the happiest tears for you. Not an idiot. How deeply sad for all involved. I'm so sorry, for you and especially for Emma's family. They're very lucky to have your friendship and support, though I wish they didn't need it so desperately. I hope Emma eventually gets the help she needs, for her sake and her children's. In the meantime, all the best to you and her family, and I hope Caleb's birthday gives you all some wonderful memories. Let me know if she actually spoiled Caleb. Now, you won't want to miss the next story. Am I an idiot for not stating why certain members of my family weren't invited to my wedding? Recently, my boyfriend, male 25, and I, male 24, of 4 years recently got married. I come from a very traditional, if not stereotypical, Latino family. The gossip is deeply ingrained in the whole family. I have about 7 uncles, one of which is also bisexual like myself. He got married some time ago, and when he sent out invites to the whole family, a large majority of them declined because of religious reasons, which really saddened him. I kept this in mind when it came time to send out my invitations, and those particular family members did not get one. About a week ago, my husband and I went to my dad's house for the annual family reunion. I really didn't want to go because I knew in the back of my mind this absolutely was going to get around. despite the lack of posting on any social media, but my dad and mom really wanted me there. They are very supportive and the be loud and proud type people, and I love them to death for it. Even if it's a little obnoxious, the spirit is what counts though, right? I voiced this concern to my dad and he was very insistent that if the shot goes south, he'll be right there to laugh about it. The entire time, my husband and I are getting some intense side-eye. The family that didn't attend didn't even try to hide the fact that they were whispering about my husband and I. About 2 hours later, as I am 6 or so whiskeys in, the straight uncles took initiative and decided to ambush me and ask why they weren't invited. I was polite and reminded them that they turned down the bi uncle's wedding for religious reasons. They responded with at least wanting to be thought about and being invited. I told them that I did think about them and decided they weren't worth the $.57 postage to be told they weren't going to attend for bigoted reasons. It would be understating to say that their reaction was less than pleased. Shot hit multiple fans. My uncles went off for being compared to a postage stamp. My dad was eating it up. My mom was a little pissy at me for causing a disturbance in her house though, which unfortunately made me question everything at that moment. My grandma was giving me the judges in Spanish look. My husband kind of grabbed my hand and said, "Let's get out of here before you piss off any more people," in a laughing manner, and proceeded to drive us home. My dad sent me a "That's my boy. Good on you for standing up for yourself" text. My mom was still less than thrilled about how things went down. My bi uncle sent me a text saying thank you for standing up for me, but now my relationship with my brothers is strained to hell and I didn't want that. My phone and social media have been blowing the hell up ever since then, but I'm kind of ignoring it though. But I do feel bad for my uncle because he just wants to be close with all his brothers and not just one. So Reddit, am I an idiot for how things went down? As I guessed, the family did indeed find this. Between 7 uncles, one of my cousins likely showed them the post I originally made. It was obviously not received well lol. Anyways, I'm just going to go down and list order of things or events that have happened. My dad. First off, he wanted me to tell all of you that he loved all the support and that he wishes to dad all of you as well. His words, "It took 2 of us to make you, and I gotta say I love my work. Any parent that doesn't should never have tried." My mom. She had called me asking why I brought up the events of my uncle's wedding. I told her that I was simply having a good time with my husband and everyone else. That my uncles made the conscious decision to want to start a problem. She got mad and said she just wanted to have a good party. I told her that I didn't want to be attacked for my sexuality and not inviting blatant bigots to my wedding, but that I'm glad her party meant more to her. We got into a shouting match over the phone. I told my dad what happened and he's livid with her. They got into a fight and now she's staying at my grandma's. I've apologized profusely to my dad, but he's telling me to let it go and that I've done nothing wrong. Above all else, this is what hurts the most. She was always so very supportive of me and it feels like a massive bombshell was just dropped out of nowhere. My bi uncle. Unbeknownst to me, my husband invited him over so he and I could have a heart-to-heart about what happened. It annoyed me a little bit, but I am glad he invited him over. We talked about the post I made and he saw everyone's comments. According to him, it kind of opened him up to the shot he was just ignoring so he could pretend to have a close bond with all his brothers. At the same time though, he's still not sure what to do from here. We talked for a few hours and had a good cry and hug about it. Everything is good on that front and it makes me happy. He'll be seeking therapy to help him deal with his feelings on this. The other uncles, obviously they are livid with me. They couldn't believe that I posted something like that, blasting them on the internet. They said they didn't like being painted the way I posted them. So I just straight up asked them if they thought my bi uncle was going to hell because of his marriage. To my shock, they had no problem saying yes. They didn't even try to dance around it. In the end, I told them that if they didn't want to be painted as bigots, to lose the religious bigoted act. Plain and simple. My husband has been non-stop trying to comfort me after the shouting match with my mom. He can see the immense pain I'm in. I love that man very much though. He took me out for steak and old fashions the other night to help get me relaxed. That's all folks. Thank you. Not an idiot. It's your wedding. And anyone who questions who was or wasn't invited can STF you. The whole point of that day is committing yourself to that one other person. If your family is causing issues over this now, it's not going to change after the ceremony. Not an idiot. As a fellow gay, I think you handled everything brilliantly. I'm sorry your mom is upset with you for standing your ground, but it sounds like she might have some internalized homophobia that needs to be addressed. Your dad sounds like a stand-up gent. Best of luck to you going forward. Now, for the next story. Am I an idiot for telling my wife it was a huge mistake to stay at a baby shower? So my wife, female 26, and I, male 28, have been married for a year and began trying to conceive in September. No luck so far, but the doctor did say at our first appointment that it typically takes close to a year for most couples to conceive. She's been telling people that she's infertile, which isn't true. The doctor said she isn't. My wife and I went to my work Christmas party in mid-December, where my wife met my coworker's wife, let's call her Mary, and they took a liking to each other. Mary was pregnant and invited my wife to her baby shower, which was yesterday, and my wife sounded excited to go. I asked her when we were alone if she thinks she'll be fine. I know my wife and I know what typically bothers her. I knew she wouldn't bask in happiness over someone else's pregnancy, so I urged her to think it through. She said she's fine and she was excited, so she went. The baby shower was yesterday. About 40 minutes in, she calls me and asks me to come. I was at a cafe nearby because I knew she wouldn't stay along. I find her at the entrance of the house crying and a bunch of women consoling her. When she saw me, she came to me and pulled me to the garden to talk. She said she was dancing and looked at Mary's pregnant belly and couldn't take it anymore, started crying and ran out. All of Mary's friends followed her out to console her. I consoled her myself and said, "Okay, let's go babe." Where do you want to go? We can go for a drive so you can feel better. She looked at me weird and asked why she would leave. I asked why she would stay. She said she feels better now and can go have a good time. I sighed and said, babe, you know that's not going to happen. And I doubt the attention will be on Mary after this, and that's not great. It's her baby shower and she deserves to be celebrated. I can't see how people are going to shift their focus from consoling you to celebrating her if you're still there. She rolled her eyes at me and said she was going back in and that I could leave. 3 hours later, the party was nearing its end, so I went back to pick her up. My coworker and I stepped into the house, and lo and behold, everyone was sitting in a circle with my wife being the center of attention. Coworker looked for his wife and she wasn't there at all. He called her and she said she had left ages ago. My wife and I entered the car and I first asked her how she was feeling, and we spoke about it for a few minutes. I then asked her what happened and why Mary left. She said, oh crap, Mary, I forgot to say bye to her. I told her Mary left ages ago. I then said, I know you're going through a hard time, but why on earth would you and her friends do this? If they consoled you for a few minutes, that's fine, but the entire party. We really should have left earlier. She looked at me so offended and said, are you Mary's husband or mine? We stared at each other for a while and just drove home in silence. I told her I wanted to talk to her this morning to sort things out, but she ignored me and left the house. Update. So I texted my coworker, let's call him Frank, and asked if we could talk, so we met up during our lunch break. I apologized for everything that happened. He kept telling me it's fine and being so nice about it, and that kind of made me feel worse. He said he had booked Mary a ticket back home for a week and that her sisters and friends were going to surprise her with another baby shower. I asked if he'd mind my wife and I paying the expenses of the baby shower they were going to throw. He laughed and said no way, but that he appreciated it. We went back and forth a bit, but he eventually said he'd ask his sister-in-law how much she spends on everything and then would let me know and we can pay half of it. I spoke to my wife when I got home from work. She apologized for ignoring me and said she doesn't know why she behaves like this. She said she is embarrassed and she can't bring herself to come to terms with how she behaved. We also spoke about the infertility thing. She said she thought her saying it out loud and discussing it with people would make it easier for her if she found out she was actually infertile, because she would have already come to terms with it. I don't get it. But hey, at least she didn't dodge accountability this time and did acknowledge that it's wrong and she needs to stop. It's slightly worrying to me how she sounds like a completely new person so often lately. Almost like there are multiple versions of her who don't know each other. I said I'm glad she now realizes it's wrong, and asked her to send flowers or something with an apology note to Mary's house. I also mentioned that I offered to pay for the next baby shower, and she told me to insist that she pays it all and not half. I said I'm fine with splitting it. She also said she would bake a cake and go to Mary personally to apologize. I told her Mary is leaving town for a week, so that we'll have to wait till she gets back, but she did send a lengthy text with a sincere, in my opinion, text. Mary responded saying my wife didn't need to apologize and that she understands what happened, and thanked her for attending her baby shower. Mary also apologized for leaving without saying goodbye to my wife and the rest of the guests. You see how nice Mary and Frank are. Jesus Christ. We decided on both individual and couples therapy soon. Anyone know if it's okay to do them simultaneously? She wants to, but I'm not sure it's a great idea. It was a given that we would stop trying for a baby, so that's definitely on hold for now. So yeah, that's it for now, I guess. I've never been to therapy and neither has she, so I'm hoping this is the beginning of our relationship getting much healthier, and our individual growth as well. Thank you so much to everyone who responded. My mind is browned by how many of you did. Hope you all have a great year. Not an idiot. Make sure she doesn't make a big deal out of paying for the shower. I'm guessing they were declining the offer at first as they don't want her involved in both showers, but she's working her way into the second one by paying for it. I think you all need to leave Mary alone. Not an idiot. I'm glad she's owning it now, and this is only because I've been on Reddit too long. When you say your wife is making a cake, I got creepy vibes like she would put something in it. Not saying she would, but Reddit got me messed up. Hope that counseling works and you guys end up with your own baby.